Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Untitled Show. Uh, I'm I'm
For
one of the hosts, Evan Greif, here with my co-host Angelo Marino.
yeah, what's up, guys? We need to work on that untitled show.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, we definitely need to decide what we're gonna name the show. But that's something we could talk about at the end of today's episode. Today, well, we're gonna talk about today. We gotta talk about last week. Last week we just talked about ourselves, who we are, why we're doing this podcast, and then just a bunch of random stuff. And then thinking back on it, we realized we needed a little more structure. So we've decided, what we're going to talk about today and then for next week's podcast. And so today's podcast is going to be about our individual careers. How, I guess we could talk about from university, like what we studied briefly, and then everything post that, and then up till now, present. And yes, I'm going to go first because Angelo went first last week, and then Angelo's going to talk about his career path. Uh, so yeah, that's an update from us. And so I guess I'll get started now. I went to the University at Albany, SUNY School, New York, and I studied finance and information technology management. I got like a bachelor's of science in business administration, and then all I knew was I was studying Japanese as well in university, so I was um, doing both IT and Japanese, and so I thought I wanted to move to Japan and work here. And I have my wife here, who I was dating at the time, and I got a job as a system engineer in a Japanese. They call them SIers here in Japan, system integrators. They're basically vendors. So a company like Fujitsu or Mitsubishi or just like big name companies will hire other uh, engineering companies
like
to.
mid tier.
Yeah, we're like mid tier, so we're basically like engineers for hire. We're like mercenary engineers,
Yeah,
basically.
contract to hire.
Our company pretty much loans us out to these bigger companies to complete their projects and actually do the work. Meanwhile, they just like kind of manage all of it, right? Um, and so I entered in like it was a crazy world because first off, I was moving to Japan. First time, I mean, I'd come here before for studying abroad, but the first time I'm living here, and making money as a full-fledged adult, and
Introductory member
living
of
on my own,
society.
in a foreign country. It's pretty crazy out here. So uh, I had no engineering experience really. I mean, what I learned at Albany, I learned mostly statistics and Excel spreadsheets, right? But a lot of the programming that I had to do, well, a lot of the work I was doing was more programming rather than, um, I guess, system configuration. So when I was in university, we talked to clients about like what their business needs were, and based on those business needs, we decided how to create the system, how to set up the system, what parts belonged in it, how much memory it needed, blah blah blah, all that. But once I entered the Japanese company that I did, I had to do like testing on very basic software. Like this software was um, programs written in the background of Excel. It's called VBA, Visual Basic, uh, VBA, Visual Basic for applications, right? And so I was writing like unit tests for that, and it was the most boring work. I hated it. I was getting paid like really shitty wage, and I just felt awful about the whole situation. But I was in Japan, and I was doing what I wanted to do, what I set out to do, right? Uh, and eventually, I started working on Java and working on mobile apps. So I was working on an Android and iOS application, which was really cool. At the back end, we created a server API through Python. So we wrote it in Python. I was working on a team with another American, so he was really chill. We talked a lot and worked together. And eventually, we both got um, transferred So like basically what happens is all of the manager tier level workers will make a request to our home office, and they'll say, "Hey, I need 2 people, I need 3 people, I need 4 people, like whatever, engineers, whatever." Like it doesn't matter what their skill level is. It's just I need heads. Like I need people here to work. And so we got called to an insurance agency that collects like the average reported insurance uh, numbers from all the companies in Japan, and then aggregates them and like comes up with the average and says, okay, here's the average that people are putting out. So here's how much you should, put out. We were working on their infrastructure, and they had to change their servers, update everything because their stuff was old and it was not going to be supported anymore. So we spent like, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months trying to. It gets technical, but we were trying to take all of their old source code that they were using on Linux type systems and then try to get them to run on Windows systems because they had moved all their servers to Windows stuff. Even though like that's not a good idea. But that was what the client wanted, so you do what the client says and hope for the best. And so eventually that project ended for us. Not the project didn't end. We put in multiple requests to be transferred out of that project. Yeah, because it was so boring. It was so bad, and like.
I have a question. So basically, you had three different job titles in the sense of like you were the same developer, but you had three different projects going on. What was the difference between the two? And you said two out of the three.
Right. So here's the thing.
Absolutely boring.
I didn't. Well, it's not even just 2 projects. What happened was the first 5 months I was doing unit tests for the Excel projects. Right. So I was writing up in an Excel spreadsheet like what happens when this field is not filled with anything. Run it
like a flow sheet.
Yeah, pretty much. Just like coming up with all of these test cases, right? And it was just the most boring shit in the world. And I was like, God damn it, why do I have to keep doing this? And then 6 months in, they realized like I was not happy. I didn't want to be in the job. Like, it was just terrible. And they were like, okay, we're gonna transfer you to do something else. But before we do that, they had me do like server racking, like mounting the big, huge hard drives, right, and like network cards into the server rooms that are all like really cold and air conditioned and stuff. So that was pretty cool, right? Like hands-on stuff. But that was more networking, not software development, which is what I thought I was going to be doing. But then after that, this is the third project. I went to that the group where I was making the app, right? So this was an in-house app. We were just making an app for for use inside the company, but it never really came to fruition. And then like that's about the time that upper level manager guy, right, that I talked about earlier, who put in the request for 2 people, right? Because we weren't actually creating something for a client, we were like at the top of the list for being picked to go, to that.
Yeah.
To that.
You were not making any money. You were just
site.
In their mind that you were just wasting money for numb. They're just like, oh, they're available. They're not doing anything important.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. But it wasn't just us though. I mean, other people got called as well. So yeah. So we got called into it, and we tried to go in with a positive frame of mind, right? Because if you're a software developer or any sort of engineer, you don't want to be moving from project to project every 6 months. It's not good for your career at all. So me and the other American guy, I'm not gonna say his name, we were very pissed off about this, but we were like, all right, maybe we'll learn something new. Maybe we'll learn something good for our careers. That was not the case. I mean, we did work some C#, but we did mostly COBOL, and like nobody uses COBOL ever anymore. It's a dying like system language. And
is there a reason why it's dying though?
Well, see, it's very good for crunching large numbers, but it's very easily breakable, the code itself. So that's why. And there's no new features being put on COBOL, and like it's not changing. There's nobody talking about it. It's mostly for like big financial and insurance institutions because they have so many reams of data that they need whatever language is best at processing those badges, right?
It's like really good for like data analytics in a sense.
Analytics, not so much. Just batch jobs, right?
Oh,
The analytics is probably more. I mean, you could do it with R or Python. Yeah. But I mean, we could talk about that on a different show. I've been studying Python on and off for about 2 years, like ever since I came to Japan. And I really wanted to get more into it, but there's always been other stuff that I've been doing. So anyway, getting back to job, right? So eventually I was fed up. He was fed up, the other American guy, and we both started looking hardcore for other jobs. And so that's where I went. In Japan, it's interesting because once you put yourself out there on like LinkedIn or any other job hunting sites, recruiters come to you and like very aggressively try to get you to, look at other job opportunities or talk to them about what your career desires are. And so I talked to a bunch of recruiters. I went to a bunch of interviews, many different companies, and a lot of them, I totally either bombed or wasn't a good fit or I didn't have the skill set they needed, right? But I just kept trying, and that's something I found to be super important. Is just keep trying. Like eventually something is gonna break. Like you're gonna find something, and I did. I found a job at a marketing agency, but they had a department where they create a mobile advertising attribution. Right? So what that is basically what an attribution tool is a platform where advertisers can see exactly where their users are coming from. So they can see which networks are bringing in the most mobile app users, right? So if they put an advertisement on Google or Facebook or Twitter or any of those big media platforms, our platform allows them to track which users came from which platforms, like which advertisement brought in which users, and also which advertisement resulted in that user paying the most amount of money, right? So we can calculate for the advertiser the average revenue that is generated per active user. So with that data, the advertisers can decide, hey, we're putting all of this ad money, this budget, our advertising budget, into I'm going to pick on, I don't know, Yahoo, right? So we put all the money in Yahoo, but we're not getting many users, and the users that we do get aren't actually paying money into our app, right? They're not paying for like virtual coins or whatever you pay for in-app purchases. But when we put our ads on Facebook or on Google, like we're getting a lot of cash from them. So let's remove our budget for Yahoo and just put all that money into Facebook and Google, and basically it helps them optimize their advertising budget. And that's what
more bang for their bucks.
Huh?
It's more bang for their bucks. That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, we charge like a little bit off the top for each install that we track, and that's kind of our business model. But my role in that particularly is when I got hired, they were looking for somebody who had engineering experience, but also spoke English for two reasons. One, the engineering experience part was that in my role, I have to speak to our in-house engineers who are actually building our platform and building the piece of software that has to go into the advertiser's mobile app, right, to track all of the events and like if they bought something or all that stuff. So I need to be able to understand that and like talk the talk. I have to talk the technical talk. So I had that. I was already developing mobile apps from my previous job at that 6-month project, and then working on some server side stuff. And granted, I didn't have all of the skills that they needed, and I didn't know the languages specifically that they needed, but for them it was enough to bet on me, right? I was like a potential hire, not like, oh yeah, he's the total best guy for the job. But I learned throughout these 6 months that I've been working at this new job, I started in November. I've learned a lot. And so that's why I need to know the technical stuff. I need to be able to talk to our in-house engineers and relay any information between them and Google's engineers or Facebook's engineers or Twitter's engineers, right? And work with them to make sure that the data that we're sending them is the data they need and make sure we're getting the correct data from them. So I have to talk to all of these different platforms: Facebook, Google, Twitter, Line, Yahoo, like a bunch of different media platforms, and all of their setups are different, right? So it's integrating those platforms. And then the English one, a lot of times documentation and news about our industry and any developments are all in English first. Yeah, so like if there's any documentation and stuff, I have to read it. Any legal things, like legal documents and information we get from those media partners like Google, Facebook, Twitter are in English, and a lot of times the people who work for those companies don't speak Japanese. So, that also, I have a role there because I speak English and Japanese, so I can be a liaison for our company and their company. And so that's what I've been doing. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Now, besides making sure that we're sending the correct data to those media companies, I have to look for like new opportunities in the industry and be like, oh, what if we, talk to this company and
see what the potential growth that they could get through us.
Exactly. Well, if they have the growth, then if we connect with them, our clients, if there's a benefit to our clients through connecting with them, then actively try to make that connection. Is basically what I do.
Well,
and that's my career path so far in a nutshell. Yeah.
Where you want to go after this?
Where do I want to go after this? Yeah. Well, this podcast is like one of those things where I'm just like, I wanna do something fun, like something I'm interested in. So hopefully we can find a way to monetize this and have it be a sort of support structure for our careers and what we want to do. My problem is I've always had a very shotgun approach to like what I want to do with my life. So it's like I could do this, or I could do that, or I could do that, whatever. What I want to start doing is doing them sequentially, right? So like just do them in order and then figure out which is the one I don't want to do, and then eventually hit something that like, okay, this is interesting. I can keep doing it, and I'm motivated to do it, and I want to keep doing it, and eventually figure out a way to monetize that. Which is why, again, doing this podcast, writing with CJ. CJ is one of our other pals, and I also recently made a website for teaching English to Japanese people who want to learn. Yeah, so if I can monetize that, and I probably will, and depending on how much I could make off of that, if it becomes profitable to the point where I could cover my expenses and still have some more on the side, like who knows what it could be in 6 months. I think it'll take time, like for you to develop anything. I think it's going to take at least half a year or a year. But in terms of where I want to take things, right now I'm just trying a bunch of different things and seeing if anything sticks. So yeah, but if I were to do a whole like working at a 9-to-5 job, then I'd like to do something with analytics that we were talking about earlier. And that's why I'm still studying Python and all that stuff. But
and R.
Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it depends on the demand and whatnot. Who knows? Like, I might even, because I'm in marketing now, I'm learning a lot about advertising technology and digital advertising, like the digital advertising space. I had no idea about 6 months ago. But now that I've learned so much about it, like maybe I could leverage that experience at like a different company if I so decided to go somewhere.
Get up and leave.
Yeah.
Random question: which language do you like the most, though? Like SQL, right? R, Python. Like, what's the interest in like out of those three? I know they're all different. They have different value and functions, but
right. Yeah. Well, again, it like you said, it depends on the use case. Like what are you trying to achieve with the language is what's important. When developers are considering a language, the important thing to think about is how large the community is, how frequently the language itself is being updated, and how much help there is out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Like on websites like Stack Overflow, like how many people are actually using the language? Because if a language is not popular, then there's going to be less and less engineers creating it. There's going to be less and less engineers trying to integrate their software with it.
Because no one uses it.
Yeah, because nobody's using it. If it's a dying language, it's a dying language. Now in terms of like favorite,
Like personal.
I think all programmers' favorite languages are easy to understand languages, right? But if you're a software developer and you're creating applications, typically you're going to want an object-oriented language. So object orientation is a whole other thing that we could talk about in another podcast. But basically, like Java is an example of an object-oriented language. And a lot of people use Java because it's ubiquitous. You can run it anywhere, basically. And it's a decent server-side language as well, if you get the right frameworks. Me personally, my favorite language, that's kind of... I enjoyed Python. But I would say that my favorite thing that I ever used was SQL. Now, SQL itself isn't a programming language. It's a database query language. So it's just like writing it's like asking the database a question in a technical format. You're like, hey, I need such and such data from this date to this date, and it has to meet these conditions, and it can't be these conditions, all of that stuff. So I like that. I like that stuff. Just like being able to look at data and then export that table, right, or whatever result you get, and then putting it into like a data visualization platform like Tableau, which is another software that basically takes the CVS data. Do you know what CSV data?
No.
CVS. Okay, CSV is it's a comma delimited file. So think of like an Excel spreadsheet, right? You have like a customer's name, first name, last name, phone number,
All
email
their
address.
information.
Yeah, all their information basically. And then all the rows are different customers, right? So a CSV file is a file that's literally just each box's information. So like John Smith, right? But it goes by commas. Right, so John, comma, Smith, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, whatever. That's the file like structure. And then at the end of each row, I think there's like another character, and then it goes to the next row, whatever, and it keeps going like that for all the rows for the rest of the file. And that's what a CSV file is. So I'm probably going to listen back to this episode, and I'm going to be like, wow, I talked in a lot of circles and was hard to understand. So I think maybe we could have some structure, or I improve the structure. I mean, this is the first time we're really doing this. So
yeah, but
I'm sure
also,
we'll get better.
Also, we're going to edit this anyway, so.
Well, I don't know about editing. Maybe I'll cut out some of the stuff that was boring or like we didn't need, but.
Or like this segment right here.
Yeah, sure. That works too. I mean, I think it's fine to put on the raw podcast itself. I don't think there's a need to edit it.
No, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's nice a little laughter that we're both humans.
But that's basically
just talking.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing up till now, from college until my career now. And then thank you for asking me about what I want to do from here on out, because that's also something I've been thinking about as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's important for me is like to get really still. Not meditate, but just be in a silent place where I can just write out what my values are and what matters to me. Because until you understand that about yourself, like, you're just going to keep doing for the sake of doing, instead of being like, okay, well, this is who I really am, and this is what I really want to do, and this is what drives me. All right, so that's 30 minutes. Or, well, we started late, but whatever.
Yeah, no, that was also, great. I really appreciate what you talked about, what you have done, And something really had to be accomplished about what went to Japan after college, went to a new environment, and doing really well. Found your wife, and then basically finding stuff that you like and pursuing other avenues. But enough about you.
Enough about
Now
me.
we have to go
This
on
is
the other
about
side.
everybody. This is about the people.
Yeah, we gotta give people what they want, and that's
Oh,
myself.
really? Yeah.
No, actually, total opposite. But
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, it's okay. We'll cut that part out.
yeah, exactly. No, but I went to SUNY Oswego, another SUNY school. Cold, really, really cold. But I went there, graduated my bachelor's in biology. Loved it. Played soccer there. Fun party school, but I study wise, I learned a lot about what I wanted to do. It's a weird kind of like biology has so much broad spectrum. I was doing wetland ecology base, which basically like wetlands, so like swamps, deal like with animal life. So when I got into that, I kind of like, okay, how can I make this a living? And every college student, you go into your field and you see it's like, okay, went to biology, went to ecology, okay, I don't need to work at the spectrum comes smaller. So I was just like, okay, let
Mm.
me diversify a little bit. Let me dip into other spectrums. So I went into immunology, which is the study of your defense system. And I went to Post, Long Island University, um, in Brookville, New York, and I went
Was it
there.
C? What is it? Post?
CW Post, that's the campus, but it's Long Island University.
Okay. Okay.
Um, and I got my master's there in biomedical sciences, and which is the concentration in immunology as well. I got there. I worked in the lab as a graduate assistant. That helped me pay some school and as well give a little free time. And that was like a 9 to 5 structured job, working independently on my research, which I worked on with yeast cells, which that got me into working with beer and like kind of like doing that on the side job. Which I made a pilsner last year. Now we're trying to make a summer ale before before the summer hits, so we'll have that perfect timing. That'd be great to taste that.
Right. Are you planning on like monetizing that, or you're just making the batch to see
Just
like if
make
you made a
Yeah, just
decent?
make it to see how well I can kind of make the beer or brew the beer.
Okay.
Kind of
All right, Angelo's making beer.
what's it called? And then after that, I got into, and then I published a paper which I did, which, and that's on transcription in yeast cells and trying to, because yeast cells are so easy to manipulate. So what the genes that we were looking at in yeast cells, it kind of correlates with oncology in human cells and to tumor suppression genes for humans. So if you understand yeast cells, and yeast is pretty cheap to make and to maintain, so it was
Wait,
really
wait. So,
easy.
sorry, I
So
don't mean to interrupt, but
no,
like you
no,
said, you published a paper on transcription.
transcription. So DNA goes into a couple of phases of translations, transcription, and like kind of like, so translations, like you know how you have your genes like the A, your the base pairs like the A, T, G, C's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I vaguely remember that from
Yeah,
high.
it's just so basically it's kind of like understanding what pair goes next into your sequence, and then transcription is trying to make that longer and trying to amplify your DNA into a larger phase. So
Wow. So transcription of what's an E cell?
like an E cell,
Yeah.
like you gotta elaborate. What do you mean by E cell?
Oh, you said transcription of E cells,
Oh, yeast
oncology.
cells. Yeast. Sorry, yeast.
Oh, yeast.
Yeah, yeast.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Yeast cells.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
wait. All right. Well, so what's significant about a yeast cell then?
So it's because it's so cheap to maintain it. You don't need all this incubators. You basically could put it into an incubator with no CO2 and just basically grow it at 37 Celsius. and you're fine. You don't have to worry about it. Or even a little bit lower than that, if you want to like kind of like maintain the temperature, but you don't need to add CO2 or an O2 to it as much. You don't have to dabble it. The cost efficiency on it, it's so, and also like the cost of it's not so much, and plus the reproduction rate of a yeast cell is they double every couple hours.
Okay, right. So it's like the perfect specimen, really.
Yeah, and so we like so there's so much research done on yeast, and but like people were more attracted when you work on human cells, but when a small liberal arts school is not into getting that grant money, it's kind of hard to fund all these projects.
Yeah.
So I digress with that. I published a paper on that, and that was actually pretty cool. And then after that, I got into a healthcare system in the Northeast region, and I work in a virology lab, which I work with pharmaceutical companies in its clinical trials, and I work on influenza, the flu. So every flu season, you take the flu shot. Some people don't. Yeah, I think generally speaking, I feel like people should take their flu shot just because you protect yourself and you protect from others as well.
Mm.
Vaccines is a weak or dead version of a virus, so it's always good to have to boost your immune system so your immune system can understand those markers that will be coming as a foreign object and be in your body. It's like, hey, I know you from a couple months ago. You're not supposed to be
Basically,
here.
I mean, from what I remember in high school is your body, once it comes in contact with the vaccine, uh, your body realizes, oh, this is a foreign body. I need to create antibodies and create a way to deal with this vaccine, deal with this, virus, whatever. And because it's a weakened or dead version, like it's not really going to affect you that much. And even if there are symptoms, it's going to be very,
Hey,
um,
don't get me wrong, you might get sick from that
right.
vaccine. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the whole point. Like the whole point of the vaccine is exposing your body.
exactly. Yeah.
So we worked with that. So kind of like, so my job was I am a research assistant, and mine is to what locate what uh, influenza was A or B, depending on the season. I've been working there for almost 2 years now, so this is my second season there. And I first was A, was a lot of it, and then this year was kind of B, and that all depends on where it's coming from, like what region of the world we're getting it. Last
Is
year
there
was
only
most
one version of influenza? Sorry, is there only ever two versions of influenza?
well, A and B is more like your main ones, but you have the bird flu, you have swine flu, you have all this stuff. Those are all different strains of the flu.
Okay.
So like you have different like you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you could go on, but the more prevalent ones is A and B.
Right, so like it's basically done on percentages, and it's the one that has the two highest percentage of, uh,
Which one affects more
or-
the most
yeah,
people?
affects the
Like,
most amount of people. Yeah.
um,
Huh.
I've been doing that. So I'll do assays on detecting these viruses. Sometimes I will detect over hundreds of samples, and would not see one single virus at all, and which is fine by me because it's all these patients were Jane Doe, John Smith. I don't know who's who, how old they are, or where they live. It was a double blind study. So that was basically understanding the flu. How long can it be withstanding the treatment? So the treatment was their drug, which I can't say, and then Tamiflu. Everyone knows what Tamiflu is in the North America region. I assume is just
What
something
is
that
it?
you take. Tamiflu,
Yeah. How does he spell it?
Tama. So I'm guessing Terma, and then flu.
Okay.
I could botch that completely, but it's when you get sick like Mucinex. This is someone you take like Robitussin or like headaches. The system's trying to aid your symptoms
Right.
that you get from the flu. So they kind of was trying to do a combined drug to study. But so basically, my main thing was control documents and test these specimens. So I kind of had to make these documents from scratch on a worksheet or a workflow on what we do. Kind of like, hey, if we test this way, if it's A or B, okay, or negative. And then this is what we would do if it's A, this is what we do if it's B, this is what we would do if it's negative. Um, so that was pretty fun, and creating SOP documents, which is basically the Bible in the clinical trial world. And I feel like you had to follow that by the whole, like by the word, by everything.
What else was? What was the
SOP Bible? It's they call SOP, Standard Operation Procedure.
Okay.
Which is basically saying that when the auditors come, which these are people from like the pharmaceutical companies, they don't look at us on a daily basis. They just come once a blue moon and be like, hey, let's see, how do you take care of our patients, our samples, and do you take them with quality and like care and for the most like professionalism. So we do, but with these documents show that this is how we do it with every single one of your samples that you sent to us. So that was pretty cool. That's understanding with that. That was a lot of work and reading papers and other standard procedures, but it was actually pretty cool. So then I got into a different department, which kind of so that was like just like one little department that I worked with. Now I work with the whole clinical trial. So I work with over, if I am correct, about over 100 trials that are going on currently, and every day we get at least a couple more, and every day some ends. But inspect that, like, I'm not just dealing with virology anymore. I am dealing with chemistry, biochem, protein chemistry, special chem, serology, which all these are different spectrums in the biology and chemistry field. So we have to wait FedEx, which come with all these specimens, and I get about over 1,000, just about 1,000, maybe a little bit more a day. This is daily, what I'm saying, and understanding which subject and which sample gets what test, what they need, and where they need to go respectively.
So and you have 1,000 trials a day, like almost.
No, well, yeah, but 1,000 samples. Trials, there's like 100-ish, depending on what. Some of these trials only have 5 patients, and they get tested for maybe 50 tests every day. Okay. Or they could be 100 tests, 100 patients, and only
so you're working with actual people, actual patients.
Yes, I don't see these people. I never will see them or meet them, but it's a test tube. Could be blood, could be piss, could be serum, could be plasma, it could be CF, like, not CF, CSF, cerebral serum fluid.
Oh, sounds delicious.
Yeah, or like sputum, or stool, too, or poop, legitimate poop. Or then you have like some cool stuff, biopsies, which they're fun to handle and see where, like, how much they get and how they got it from a cancer patient, but they're not always fun because but going back, it's like, oh, I got this tube, like a blood sample. Okay, what kind of test? I'll look it up in our database and be like, okay, this is his 4th visit during his trial, and now he needs XYZ, and we need to test his blood cells. How strong are they? How are they viable now? Because after you take out blood in the tube, it's not going to stay viable, so you have to get that right away to the department to get a test. If not, you just wasted that. It's nothing, and you can't get that back on that day.
Wait, so that blood, the reason why it's no longer viable is exposure to outside.
It doesn't have like that. So when you have blood, it needs oxygen. You already took out the oxygen source now. Now it's in a tube.
Right.
Now it's like a time bomb of saying, like, how long can this stay optimal in that tube?
Okay, so when they take the blood out, do they take it out near where it needs to be, like, stored or researched? Like.
Yeah, but with blood you can, like, store it into in the fridge, or it will start clumping. All the cells will clump together, will settle down. So you have to keep it fresh. But then also you don't want to be like too hot and they start dying. So it's very tempered, like temperature sensitive or very like you have to be fragile. You have to all these stuff have to be with care and understand like it could be anything. We had patients that has HIV patients. We get to double stack on gloves, wear lab coats, goggles, anything, just in case to protect you from that, and then from the sample, and you're protecting the sample from you.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Like no contamination or anything.
and also I do IRB studies, which is Institutional Review Board, which is basically saying which study can go on and which study cannot go on in our clinical trials. So let's just say if a trial wants to do chemistry tests on these patients that are pregnant only and they have to hit these criteria, we can decline them saying you don't need us, you need this department. We will decline, and they have to go back to the start, back to the drawing board, and trying to figure out their next project, or how they do it.
So when these trials come in, these trials are coming in as requests from pharmaceutical companies?
Pharmaceutical companies or doctors' offices as well.
Okay.
Mostly, well, and then they will come from a pharmaceutical company, but mainly, yes, from a pharmaceutical company because they want to test their drug and they want to get money off of it.
Right. Of course
Because all these, mostly I deal with phase 1, phase 2, sometimes phase 3, and which basically what it means with the phases are just what part are in their trial for their drugs, and FDA has to approve these drugs. And you look over the counter, these like whatever, let's just say something like people know, like these fat burner stuff, like pills. A lot of them are not FDA approved because some stuff you could just get it off. You can put it on the shelf if they don't harm the human into a huge exposure in the sense of like, oh, you won't get soreness or dizziness. Like you can sort of dizziness, yes, but like you're not gonna faint from taking this. You're not gonna cause physical pain to this.
Right.
So that's why a lot of these things can go on, or like Mucinex. I'm guessing those like over-the-counter drugs have to be FDA because anyone can grab it.
Right, because well, you have to test it within a specific population, right? So like if you test with 5,000 people, then you can what's the word for it? Extrapolate from that and say like, okay, well in the general population, like if only one person was affected and the only way they were affected was like they got a little bit of dizziness, then you just write that on as a side effect.
If they call it dizziness, yes, and you protect yourself from that.
Yeah.
So we deal with all these samples coming into our facilities, and like it could be legitimate, it could be a mislabel, and we can't perform tests, and legitimate can cause that patient. We don't know what will happen the next day. They have to get it again, or a retest, or a redraw, or. So I work with that, and as well as I do another test called PBMCs, which is peripheral blood mononuclear cells. So when you take blood, you have your whole cell, like it's the whole blood. So you have the red cells, white cells, plasma, platelets, XYZ, the whole 9 yards. So
peripheral blood monitoring cells?
No, peripheral blood mononucleated cells.
Okay.
Yes, hence why PBMCs. Or my coworker like to say PB&J, which I don't understand why, but go on. So I basically take the whole blood, centrifuge it, which is basically separate the cell into layers. So you see the red cells, which is more condensed, they'll go down. Then you have the white cells, which we really need, the white cells right there, and then the plasma. So the mononucleated cells, it's white cells because they have that nucleated cells in it. The red blood cells they shouldn't have nucleated cells, but some do, which can happen. But
wait, so can you just stick the test tubes in like a circle thing and you press a button and it spins really fast? Is that?
That's a centrifuge if you want to talk in layman terms. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I spin it down, and I will take the white blood cells from out of that.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
just need the white blood cells, and I will use a flow cytometer will count white blood cells and how many of them are alive and have that certain marker that we are looking for. It could be anything. It could be CD14, CD38, but it really means what do we have. And after that, we'll freeze the cells and keep into minus 80 or liquid nitrogen. Depends on how long they need to be stored for and where are they going to be shipped later on for other testing that we don't perform at the moment. And that could be just not enough equipment we have or manpower, but the pharmaceutical company's like, okay, we'll just use you for this part and then we'll go somewhere else for another part.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much on what I do. And currently that, yeah.
So like obviously from the way you talk about it, you love your job and you never want to do anything else, right?
Hey. About that. No,
I'm
I love
kidding,
my
man.
job. I
What do
do
you?
like my job.
Okay.
But no, like I try to dabble in other stuff like soccer. I would like to love to coach soccer, train kids in soccer. Um, Playing foot golf, that's only going to grow, and people is only going to take off. People have to talk about. People have to express their passion about it. I like. I'm trying. I founded a club that I want to take off, and hopefully that can be good doing events, tournaments, leagues, sponsorships, and all that stuff. Play that professionally. If that's the case in America, that'd be great. Um,
I have a question.
Podcast. Yes, shoot.
What is the difference between a tournament and a league?
Tournament. It could be a day or two, and you kind of like, or depends on what tournament, but like there's different. But kind of like a league, it's you can go for X amount of times while like you could do it every week, once a week, and you're still doing the same like round. Like you could play, and me and you will play a round of foot golf, or let's just say we'll play soccer, and the game draw 1-1. The game would draw 1-1. We'll both get 1 point. In a tournament, depending on the bracket, or if it's just a knockout, we tie 1-1. We're going to penalty shootouts to see who wins.
Hmm.
So tournaments can be really, really short and be like 1 day events, and the winner wins. Well, league, you do it multiple weeks and days out of the year.
Okay.
Like you have the like let's just say the Prem, like Barclays Premier League in England, or Serie A, or MLS. Like
I don't
like
know. I
rough
don't know what you're
like
talking about.
okay, so the Prem is the top tier league in England.
It's like
Serie A,
Premier
yeah,
League.
the Premier, the Prem. They call it the Prem. Serie A, it's the top tier league in Italy.
Okay.
MLS is the top tier in America.
Okay.
So the Prem and Serie A, they start roughly around August and they end in May. Their league, that's the league. Wow, they had like tournaments, like cup tournaments or domestic cups, which last about, let's just say, um, September to early May. Same throughout the time, but each game, each time that you play in that tournament, you win, you go to the next round. If you lose, you're out and you don't play in that game. In the league, you play and you lose, next week you have another match, no matter
Right.
what.
You're just matching up with somebody who's performing around the same as where you performed.
They
No?
it could be no, it could be anything in the
It could
league.
be
You could
random.
versus the top,
Okay.
you could be the top in the league, and you versus the bottom
Okay.
of
All
the
right.
league. While the tournament, you don't know who you're gonna get.
Oh, well, that's interesting. I mean, I think leagues are cool then because like a tournament, like say, well, because teams need to practice throughout their entire season, right? So from August to May, and then if you're in
Mhm.
the tournament and you get knocked out early, like, okay, well, who are you gonna play with, you know? So
Yeah.
that's why I guess a league makes sense. So what? Okay, so stuff like the World Cup and like Olympics, obviously those are tournaments, right? Because
Yes.
there's knockout, and then yeah. All right. So when
So
people are doing World Cup and like a team gets knocked out, what do they do after? Do they just go back to their domestic league or their domestic tournaments or?
So basically with like World Cups and like their other like tournaments, so like you have your club and you play for your country. So a lot of these countries will play during when they're not playing for their club, for the most part, or they'll take like let's just say vacation in a sense, and represent their country. The World Cup is a tournament in the summertime, generally speaking, when all the leagues are done. You have the minor leagues that have whatever, like Sweden or let's just say maybe like Scandinavia, which like the summertime is primarily good for soccer up there because it's
Right,
really
because
cold
it's
up
always
there.
cold.
Um, but like you want to have your players healthy because you're getting the best players in your country represent that country.
Yeah, and well, when if it's right when the league is over, like everybody's ready and still like
They're
in
still in
top
fit
shape.
shape, yeah.
Like, yeah,
And they have their international breaks. They will take 2 weeks off from their club to play for their national team for a game or two, but
okay.
that's it. Um, that's why like some of these players they play about 50, 60. Nah, let's just say about 50 games a year if they're on a top team. They're in all
Damn,
these tournaments.
that's a
Plus
game
they
a
have the
week.
world.
It's 52 weeks in a year. That's yeah.
They're playing a game a week. Like normally leagues about 38 games a year. Plus if
Right,
they go to the final, depending on how long their tournaments are, their cup matches, you could go all along.
right.
But yeah, like
So
with
I'm
football,
sorry, like we totally went into soccer here,
yeah,
but I'm like interested. I have all these
yeah.
questions. This is definitely something we could talk about at another podcast.
Mhm.
Why don't we
Uh,
get back to what you were saying about what you wanted to do? I mean, I know
so
you
like
said
with like
soccer
events,
coaching
like
and football.
yeah, fuck off. I want to do like events, like kind of like fundraiser events, like have like. So I live in the New York region, so like the NYPD, like the police department, and the fire department, they'll do like charity events or like fundraiser events. So
Mm,
they'll go match, they verse each other in hockey, football, soccer, whatever. And I want to do that in football because it's a growing sport, it's a more leisure and fun sport in my eyes. But and get my name out there. You have like there's so many people can play and try it out. You get it, it can hit off. Um, I was hearing on the news that 2024 is trying to introduce in the Olympics in Paris. So that's going to be pretty fun if
are they
that
trying to introduce foot golf
as
into
a
Paris
Olympic
Olympics?
sport. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely make it bigger and like more people would know about it and whatnot. I think that's a good idea for the fundraiser events. Just like for fire departments and police departments. It's definitely a good way to keep
Corporate
like a
events
sense
as
of
well.
community.
Hmm.
Sports are definitely a good way to do that
Yeah, so that's why
because
I want.
like sports, everybody can play, everybody can compete. It's like
Exactly. So that's why I wanted to do that. And also like I've been dabbling with like making that dabbling like, but actually trying to be making mead, which is like fermented honey, beer. Um, so those are two I kind of was interested in trying to make that actually into making that. So I'll make it with my friends, a couple of beer here a year, see what I would like, keep the recipes, and see if I could go on from there. But like all that, it's time commitment. It's spending out of a day or so, which like this week I worked 6 days. I'm gonna be working tomorrow. I'm gonna be 6 days plus 10 plus hours a day.
right.
Like
Yeah, there's only so much time in the week, and like time is a limited resource, and we really should think about it that way because then
mhm.
you can schedule out like what you want to do with that time, and
Yeah.
that's why like I actually put a bunch of stuff in my Google Calendar for what I want to do this weekend, so that way I get a bunch of stuff done, and I'm not at the end of Sunday I'm not like shit, I didn't do anything, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like while me, like I don't want to do anything
Right.
because I'm just so busy with stuff and um, like I know on Monday I'm gonna go out to foot golf courses and talk to them on how to promote their course, how to play, and try and look for the kind of partnerships. See,
Right.
like, okay, we're gonna try to do a league or a tournament this day for this tour. Let's do it, kind of like that.
So do you have Do you already have a foot golf website up, or do you have any sort of social
Yes,
media presence right now?
yes, and my website is www.lifootgolf.com.
Okay.
You can follow us at Long Island Foot Golf Club and on Instagram or on Twitter. And also my more competitive club is Skyline Foot Golf Club. And we have Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I have that for my this more social event one, but I'm trying to get it up and running, which it takes 2 seconds to make. But
Wait, so
just have that.
Twitter for the social event one is Long Island Football Club, or
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
I have that all on my Facebook page. If you look it up, kind of like we're doing a fundraiser May 4th, and we're supporting the high school, um, local high school club, the boys varsity team in North Jersey. We're gonna go to a course in North Jersey in Hamburg and play foot golf. And at the moment, we have about 40 people, but we're projected to get another 40 more. So that'll be a big day, 80. Try to get our name out there from there. We got new jerseys coming in, Nike, dry fit. It looks awesome, actually. Um, and kind of like just getting it off and running. That's the little stuff I'm dabbling in. Plus, like you're riding with Buck with CJ. I'm also riding the book with our buddy as well.
Yeah, I'm actually jealous because like you guys said that it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings type book, and I like,
Lord of the Rings,
yeah,
Game of Thrones. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's I totally want to be in on that, but like if that's the thing that you guys want to do, that's cool.
no, it's something that we all have to talk about. But like, I think we should get him on couple in the, like when we talk about writing and
Yeah.
see if he will be down to do it. Um,
What I was thinking actually, and the reason why I brought up like what your social media presence is for foot golf is because I was thinking about finally setting up a system where like I have a blog and I have my own uh, social media presence, and then I can just share all of your stuff on my blog, right? And be like, here's some of the stuff I'm interested in and all the people I follow, whatever.
yeah,
And then also CJ could do the same, and you could,
yeah, I bet, vice
sort of,
versa.
yeah.
No, yeah, CJ is doing that on his Facebook page. Um, he's a great writer. Um, even though yes, he started, but you just have to read his content at work. It's just great.
Yeah.
It's all over the place. That's the best part about it because you don't know what you're gonna get every week. It's a little short story that he talks about, but the content is just there.
Yeah.
It's
Well, the book I'm working on with him, it's like, most of the content is written by him. Like, if I'm honest, most of it was written by him. I just kind of like I'm in there to tweak it, make it flow more naturally, make sure the grammar's correct. You know how I am, and like
yeah.
make sure everything's nice.
Mhm.
So, um, and that's been a real fun project. Have you actually had a chance to look at
Read
that?
it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I really enjoy that. That's also like a good read. Um, hopefully he could get it out, and hopefully a publisher or self-publish it as well. That'd be
Yeah.
great. I know there's a little avenues that people would do just for the meantime, just get his name out there. Um, I know we're going on a tangent right now, but this is just like a
Well,
little nice little
that's what
talk.
we planned for.
No, exactly. It's
Yeah.
just no, it was a little nice talk that we have. Um, but yeah, no, it's just like I just noticed it now, like how we got into from what we do to sports to now this to writing and
Right.
books.
Yeah.
So that's always a good thing. I like that a lot.
But luckily,
Uh,
there haven't been any awkward breaks until right now.
no, well, yeah, just being noticing it. well,
No,
also,
it's been fun. It's been fun.
no, yeah, that's why like I want to get into the whole next episode that we're going to talk about next week.
Mm.
And I want to do talk about like career choices because like I feel like people understand like they don't understand when they get out of college. There's so many like what you go for is not so specific unless you go for accounting. You know what I mean? Or you
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to a doctor. But if you want to be a doctor, like there's so many stuff of being a different kind of doctor. You can be a doctor just for kids. You can be a doctor for old people. You can be a surgeon, a foot doctor, head doctor, neurosurgeon. There's so much. And then like I felt like when I went into college, it wasn't there. It was like I had to find it, which is fine. You know what I mean? Like I thank God I was able to find work and kind of support myself for the time being. But I feel like I think students or future students need to have that more accessible. I feel like.
Yeah, I think people aren't given the tools in school, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
schools themselves, and like we don't know this because we go through the system, and then afterwards we're like, what the hell was that all about, right? But
High
now
school is
like
basic review.
schools just training you to work at a company or at a factory or whatever. It's not teaching you how to learn or how to think, right? So that's what's most important, I think. It's like trying something. If it went wrong, analyzing why it went wrong and why it
Mm-hmm.
didn't work for you, right? And then adapting to it. Because you have to adapt to reality. If there's no
Yes.
market for what you want to do, then look, man, you can't do it.
I
You
felt like school. I'm going to cut you off because you
know?
hit a
Okay.
point about. Um, I felt like school was less of the creative thinking, but more of following the rules.
Oh yeah.
And that's why people love having a good worker that knows what to do and follow directions. And if you can't follow directions, a 9 to 5 job is not. You shouldn't be going to a 9 to 5 job if you can't follow the rules.
Yeah,
And I
you
started
should.
realizing that like I get more frustrated with work with my manager. That like a part of me like I don't want to be bossed around because I know how to do my job. Yeah, I
Right.
can make mistakes. People are human. And I'm not saying invest, but like now like um this guy I've been listening to his podcasts, Gary Bat.
Vaynerchuk.
Yes, that guy.
I follow his Instagram.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he talks.
Uh,
He says it like it is.
he said how like no, it's very blunt, and I do enjoy that. But like people will ask him like, okay, how do I get into a field that you never get into? It's like put time and act for don't ask for any money. Don't get be paid. Learn it.
Yeah.
Learn what you want. If you love it, you get experience that way. And that's why like all these
So
stuff people are
eventually
doing
you get good enough to the point where people are willing to pay you money,
pay you.
right?
Yes, of course.
But
That's why like with the whole like talking and like or writing, you write and write and write and write before, and then someone will notice that. Or you play football every day or every
well, what's
week.
important is
Train, and you
you
get that
look back
sponsorship.
too.
Yeah.
You
So
review
when you
like,
start,
okay, what about this wasn't good, and then tweaking it. Some people make the same mistake over and over and over again. That's something you got to definitely try to avoid.
but you have to look at progress.
Yeah.
If you don't think you're progressing, there's no point of doing stuff because if you don't like, so it's like, oh, you suck, this is not good,
Well,
whatever. Okay,
the
great.
point, the reason that's important is to maintain your motivation to keep doing it, right? If you see progress, you're gonna be like, oh shit, like I'm getting better. Okay, well then when I'm at this point then like how much better am I gonna be? And then
Exactly.
you get excited by that, and it like pulls you to do it, right?
Like
That's
I feel like playing like soccer my whole entire life. Like I could say like from when I was at 3 years old to now, like yeah. Or when I was in college from now, like I know I went on the decline because I'm getting older. Also, I'm not playing as much. But like now I've been playing folk golf a lot more. I can see I'm able to read the course a lot better now, and like setting myself for the next shot is always the best thing. When I was start playing last year, I was comparing myself to other people, which I shouldn't have. And it's like, how can I be there? It's like, no, I shouldn't be thinking about that. I should be, how can I improve
right.
myself?
Like, what's your next step?
Yeah. And I kind of felt like I've been improving. Now I want to see on the next next May 4th, I'm going to that fundraiser. I'm playing with a couple of good people around the region before I go to Florida for the U.S. Open for foot golf, and it's going to be legitimate playing the number one in the world from Mateus Perron. He's number one in the world right now. Ben Clark, also the number one in the world in England. Those people are like legitimate, like the next, like like they are the Tiger Woods, or not. Like I can't even say that because you can't compare the two. Tiger Woods like a GOAT. But in the sense of like they are so well or so great at this sport right now that people are looking at them. They have won so many titles already in their field or in the sport. Um, so like just playing on the same course with them for the next those 3 days is a great thing.
Yeah.
And I really improved myself within the 2 years that I had the confidence.
So I think that's where we can wrap up the show, no?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, listeners, whoever's out there. We are going to. I would like to introduce like any sort of social media following or whatever that we have here, but we don't really have like a website or an account set up for this specific podcast. Do you want to just share? I mean, you already shared your foot golf stuff, right? So I was thinking we share our
personal
or like regular accounts. Yeah, I mean, if you want to, go ahead and.
Well, like you can follow my Instagram. It's at Angelo_Messina. Yeah. And basically my stuff. It's all about what I do, my social event, my life, my girlfriend, and they have other link stuff to the supplement company that I currently use and help others with their nutrition values as well as supplement gaps that they need to take and workout plans, and plus my book golf to my clubs that I work with, and also my social It's a Beery Day as well. Trying to get back on that board as well. So that's mine.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Mine is at Griefy, all lowercase GREEFY underbar or underscore. That's my Instagram account, and Twitter. I actually was doing Twitch for a while, and I might actually do it again, so I might as well share it here.
10 years later.
At Real Griefy. That's my Twitter handle. And then my regular Twitter is just my full name, at Evan Garrett Greif. Evan EVAN GARRET GREIF. And yeah, that is my social media footprint. I don't have Facebook on my phone because Facebook tracks your location data, even if you like turn off that setting in your iPhone. So I just don't download it. I use it through a browser. But we can even talk about like all that stuff. Crazy data privacy.
Another day.
Another day. Yeah. All right. So thanks for listening, and see you all next week.
See you next week, guys.